You don't expect the hero to be the problem. This is supposed to be the duty of the villain. However, this isn't always the case. In fact, in many of our favorite movies, we overlook the fact that our beloved heroes might actually be wrong. But why is this the case? And which of our favorite heroes is guilty of this? The first hero guilty of being wrong is Ralph, and his sin is neediness. Now, don't get it twisted, neediness is not always ugly. At its best, it is the human desire to be valued, loved, and seen.
Get back in here and love me! Ah!
But when neediness festers, it twists into something darker. Few animated films illustrate this more directly than Ralph Breaks the Internet, where a hero's insecurity nearly destroys both his closest friendship and the world around him. To understand Ralph's problem, we have to look back at where he started. In the first Wreck-It Ralph, his journey is about recognition. He wants the Nicelanders to see him as more than the bad guy in their game. His friendship with Vanellope is transformative, giving him the belonging he had craved for years. That movie ends with a hopeful message. Ralph may still be a villain in-game, but he has people who value him outside of it. The problem is that this solution is fragile. Ralph's sense of self is tied almost entirely to Vanellope's approval, and that dependence sets the stage for the collapse in the sequel. In Ralph Breaks the Internet, we see what happens when Ralph's need for connection becomes toxic. At first, the friendship between him and Vanellope looks charming. They share games, hang out at tappers, and live side by side.
But now, I got a best friend. Just happens to be the coolest kid in the whole arcade.
But everything soon starts to go sideways. It began with their little conversations about their current lives. You know, just two pals talking about the future and other things. While Ralph is content with repetition, Vanellope longs for something more. She is tired of doing the same races over and over again and wants something different. After complaining about this to Ralph, he decides to surprise her by constructing another racetrack to spice things up. His plan works and Vanellope loves it. But this comes at a price. Because she was driving outside the main track, the human gamer tried to steer her back on track. This struggle led to the physical steering wheel breaking. Saying that the price of a new steering wheel was outrageous, Mr. Litwack proceeded to unplug Sugar Rush, rendering its occupants homeless.
We're homeless! Yeah, you're homeless!
Vanellope is heartbroken until she and Ralph get the idea to purchase the steering wheel from eBay by entering the newly installed Wi-Fi. This is where things get out of hand for real because the internet does one thing for Vanellope. It offers her a glimpse of freedom and excitement through another game called Slaughter Race. In this game, she is not limited to the same tracks. In fact, there are no tracks at all.
There is no track. I can drive anywhere.
After a while on the internet, things become clear to Vanellope that she's better off staying in Slaughter Race.
I want this to be my life. I can't go home now.
For Ralph, this is terrifying. Instead of celebrating her dreams, he clings to her, interpreting her desire for independence as a threat to his happiness. This is where Ralph's flaw becomes dangerous. Psychologists describe this as anxious attachment, when fear of abandonment fuels controlling behavior. Ralph smothers Vanellope with attention and refuses to accept that her life might expand beyond him. His neediness has gone beyond love to possession. Ralph basically wants to be her only friend. The turning point is when he unleashes the virus to slow down her new racing world, hoping to keep her tied to him. The virus literally manifests his insecurity, replicating Ralph clones across the internet. His worst qualities become a digital plague.
Servers across the web. The Wreck-It Ralph virus is indestructible.
The symbolism is striking. Ralph's inability to let go turns into a virus that consumes everything in sight. The internet glitches, games crash, and Vanellope's dreams waver on the edge of collapse. What began as the simple fear of losing a friend escalates into a near apocalypse. Ralph's flaw is control disguised as care. He believes that by holding tighter, he is protecting Vanellope. In reality, his grip is choking her. This ties back to a universal theme, the line between love and possession. From Ovid's myths of gods capturing mortals in the name of affection to modern psychology's distinction between healthy and toxic relationships, the same truth emerges. Love that fears freedom is not love at all. Ralph fails to recognize this distinction. His obsession with being needed blinds him to the fact that real friendship requires letting go. The climax of the film drives this point home. Ralph literally confronts a monstrous version of himself, a towering virus made of needy Ralph clones that refuse to let Vanellope go. The image is grotesque, a mass of grasping hands smothering her under the weight of his insecurity. In that confrontation, he finally sees what his neediness has become. So, to save Vanellope, he has to do the one thing he feared most, accept her independence. Only by letting her go does he preserve their friendship. By the end of Ralph Breaks the Internet, Ralph learns to live without constant validation. He still misses Vanellope, but he allows her to chase her dreams. It's a bittersweet resolution because the cost was so high. Ralph shows us that a hero can be wrong out of fear. His neediness almost destroyed the world, proving that when love turns into control, even heroes can become villains in disguise. In the end, Ralph was somewhat redeemed, but that isn't always the case, as sometimes the victory of the hero is a terrible outcome. Take Jake Sully from Avatar, the blue one with tails and all, who we support in his quest to save Pandora. It begins kinda innocently, just something as little as curiosity. Jake Sully, a broken soldier given a second chance through his avatar body, starts to sympathize with the Na'vi. His mission is clear: gather intelligence to help humanity secure Pandora's resources. Humanity is dying from overpopulation, and Pandora has everything that would give humans back on Earth their much-needed salvation. Therefore, anyone in Sully's shoes would be honored for the privilege to serve in a savior's capacity. Yet his first small flaw is hesitation. Hesitation because now his observation has graduated into compassion for those he was supposed to help colonize. That spark of empathy seems harmless, even noble, but it plants the seed of divided loyalty. As time passes, that seed grows into something heavier. Jake is falling in love with their world, their people, and of course, Neytiri.
Okay, I fell in love. I fell in love with the forest, and with the Kaya people, with you.
His dual loyalties leave him living a lie on both fronts. To the Na'vi, he becomes a brother, a trusted warrior. To the humans, he is still the Marine gathering intelligence for the strike to save his friends, his family. Practically the entire world was depending on him. This duplicity is not sustainable, but in the moment, Jake convinces himself he can serve both. That is the second escalation of the flaw, the belief that he can stand in two worlds without breaking one. The consequences of that illusion erupt when his intelligence directly enables the military assault on Hometree. It is one of the most brutal betrayals in modern storytelling because it comes from someone the Na'vi trusted, especially when they had initially had doubts. The Na'vi welcome Jake into their sacred spaces, share with him their lives and stories, only for that knowledge to become the weapon that destroys them.
Standing by.
Bring it down.
Clear hot.
No one can serve two opposing masters without eventually breaking faith with one. Sully embodies that dilemma in its purest form. His love for the Na'vi makes him a traitor to his species, while his human origin makes him a traitor to the Na'vi. Both sides are justified in their anger. Both are correct to call him a betrayer. Sully must choose a path. To remain loyal to humanity is to aid in genocide. To remain loyal to the Na'vi is to doom his species to slow extinction. By the end of Avatar, Sully openly switches sides. He accepts that his morals cannot save humanity and chooses instead to defend the Na'vi, even if it means condemning his own species. To humans, and as far as this video is concerned, Sully has done something terribly wrong. He received the honor to save humanity and betrayed them for blue alien puss. Yet we regard him as the hero. This is why it makes sense that even in his afterlife, Colonel Quaritch took it upon himself to exert vengeance against him. But we can't blame Jake Sully entirely because in this next scenario, a hero chose to do good for the sake of his people, but it backfired in the worst way possible. That hero is Bob Parr, aka Mr. Incredible. When a young fan, Buddy Pine, idolizes him and begs to fight alongside him, Bob dismisses him with cold words.
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
To Bob, it didn't seem like he had done anything wrong, but to Buddy, it's rejection, humiliation, and betrayal. In brushing off help, Bob dismissed the humanity of others, reducing them to annoyances rather than potential allies. By the time we know who Buddy Pine eventually becomes in the movie, he has already wiped out dozens of supers. Families have been left broken, and many generations of heroes have been erased. And all this bloodshed traces back to Bob's pride. He is self-assured to the point of arrogance because he has superpowers and is married to the hottest cartoon character ever. Okay, maybe that last bit was too much. But anyway, he planted the seeds of Syndrome. The massacre of heroes, the rise of a villain, and the deaths that follow can all be traced back to that scene. Bob Parr's greatest danger he ever faced was his own carelessness in the presence of someone who only wanted to belong. I mean, sure, he was a kid back then, and it would have been way too dangerous to work together. But he could have dismissed him in a different, motivating way instead of brushing him off. It could have led to a lot of different outcomes. Less destruction, no bans on supers, and most of all, no villain called Syndrome. And that isn't the only time the character we regard as the hero of a movie actively creates his own downfall. Because motives are good, it doesn't mean the outcome will be as well. That's where Megamind comes in. He embodies this paradox in a way few animated characters do. At the start, he gets everything he thought he wanted. Metro Man defeated, and the city is his for the taking. His victory should be a triumph, but instead it reveals a void. Without opposition, life feels meaningless and even boring.
Then why do I feel so melancholy?
The irony is clear. The villain discovers that evil only has purpose when good stands in its way. This boredom drives him to double down on his own cleverness. And so comes the fateful decision. If Metro Man is gone, Megamind will create his own hero so that Metro City can be safe again.
Create a hero? What? Why would you do that?
So I have someone to fight!
He mistakenly chooses Hal, the awkward and naive cameraman. Then he just decided to go with the flow, feeling it was destiny when Hal was shot with the diffuser gun containing Metro Man's DNA. With that out of the way, Megamind was going to proceed with his plan of shaping him into the city's new savior. On the surface, it looks like progress. A villain deciding to create good, what could be nobler than that? But his mistake is philosophical. He confuses power with virtue. He assumes that giving someone abilities is the same as giving them character. Here, the cycle of good intentions turning sour begins to escalate. Megamind's arrogance blinds him to the obvious flaws in Hal. The man is selfish, entitled, and resentful.
Is this a robbery? Because the lady across the hall has way better stuff than me.
That line explains what a selfish douchebag Hal is. Dude has no business saving anyone. Talk more, the city. He just wants to possess Roxanne, the love of his life. Therefore, when he gains powers, these impulses are amplified. Megamind dismisses these warning signs, brushing them off because his experiment needs to succeed. He wants so badly to prove that he can create a hero that he ignores the psychology of the man he's chosen. The result is catastrophic. Instead of Titan, the noble champion Megamind imagined, Hal becomes a reckless tyrant whose powers are fueled by bitterness and entitlement. Rather than defending Metro City, he terrorizes it. What Megamind intended as the city's salvation becomes its darkest threat, proving that his experiment nearly annihilated the very world he wanted to improve. This collapse echoes the philosophical warning of unintended consequences. Goodwill without wisdom, power without moral grounding, almost guarantees disaster. Megamind's story dramatizes this truth. He fails because he never understood that character cannot be manufactured. But there's something else that Megamind got wrong. He committed the sin of projection. Don't know if that makes sense, but it sounds like it does. Anyway, Megamind wrongly assumes that because he transformed by shifting from hated outsider to creative villain, others can change too. He projects his own malleability onto Hal, believing he can pull the strings of human nature as effortlessly as he manipulates gadgets. But human beings are not inventions, and Hal resists becoming what Megamind imagines. So, in the end, Megamind created a hero who was wrong and had to swoop in to save the day, making himself the hero. A movie where not one, but two heroes are actively wrong. It all leads to mass destruction, but at least Megamind was able to right his wrongs before it was too late. Unfortunately, for this next character, the things he did made him so unlikable that it was even hard for us to root for him. It starts with the central question: what does it mean to be a hero? Most stories will tell you it means courage, sacrifice, and strength. But the 2022 movie Lightyear flips the question. It shows us what happens when a hero gets everything wrong. Buzz Lightyear is supposed to be the model of discipline and leadership, yet in this story, his flaws take center stage. He's arrogant, reckless, obsessed with control, and so blinded by guilt that he creates more suffering than the original problem ever caused. If the other characters in this video stumble into mistakes, Buzz practically runs into them. The story begins with Buzz's most telling flaw, his refusal to accept help. From the very first mission, he makes it clear he doesn't trust rookies and doesn't trust autopilots. He probably wouldn't want to work with Alicia Hawthorne if she weren't his commander. In any case, his arrogance builds until the crew is scrambling to escape and the ship is sinking. Here, the rookie offers to help several times, but Buzz waves him off over and over again. Because of this, the ship crashes, and the entire crew is stranded on a hostile planet. The irony is brutal. The man obsessed with completing the mission dooms it from the start because he couldn't share responsibility. This arrogance soon mutates into obsession. Stricken with guilt over the crash, Buzz dedicates himself to perfecting the hyperspeed crystal that could return them home. But here lies his second fatal flaw, his refusal to accept good enough. While the colony adapts, builds homes, and slowly embraces life on the planet, Buzz keeps flying mission after mission. Each test burns years in time dilation, leaving him unchanged while everyone else grows older. What began as a single mistake compounds into decades of absence. Friends like Alicia Hawthorne build families, grow old, and die, while Buzz wastes their lives chasing a perfect solution that never comes. His need to erase his guilt binds him to the fact that life has already moved on. Buzz doubles down on his failures to make things right. Yes, but mostly to protect his ego. Admitting failure feels unbearable, so he continues investing in the same path, even as it worsens his situation. Each failed hyperspeed mission should teach him to let go, but instead it deepens his conviction that he must succeed. His obsession with fixing the past blinds him to the present, and the weight of his guilt isolates him from the people he claims to protect. Even when Izzy and the Junior Patrol become a factor in the movie, Buzz still doesn't want to work with them. He had lost so many years of friendship because he refused help. But here he was, still refusing to collaborate. Buzz illustrates the danger of a hero complex. He believes leadership means doing everything alone, carrying every burden, and never showing weakness. Aristotle warned against extremes, teaching that virtue lies in balance. Buzz lives in extremes, too proud to take help, too obsessed to accept limits, too rigid to admit that imperfection is survivable. He would rather destroy himself than accept a lie that he can't control. That mindset does not make him heroic, but dangerous. At the end of the day, Lightyear as a movie was a dud, and the character Buzz was one of the reasons why. Another reason why Lightyear was a horrible movie was Zurg, who they made into one of the most terrible twist villains ever. Luckily, we made a video about Waternoose, whom you might have forgotten, but he is one of the best twist villains that you can learn from. So go check out the video now.